I was in college. I went to Cal Poly. I transferred when I was about 20. I went to a community college up in Monterey first, and then I transferred. So the second week of school, could have been the first week of school, I was sitting in a computer science class. And a girl sitting next to me during the middle of lecture asked me a question. I could not hear her, so I kept leaning a little more to the right and a little more to the right. And at that time, the desks were those side desks where it had a side arm, and then you entered in from the left and you sat down. And I kept leaning over, and the whole desk tipped over on its side. And I don't know if you've ever fallen over in one of those desks before, but when you're on your side, it's like a turtle that's on its back, and I could not get out. To make matters worse, my binder was open, and the rings were open. The papers went flying all over the place. They were scattered around on the floor, and then I had to figure out a way to get out. Now, keep in mind, this is in the middle of a lecture with an instructor who has a doctorate in computer science, and I'm on the floor. I get the desk up with some help from people, and everybody kind of smooshes all the papers together and puts them on my desk, and I sit there, and I'm just horrified, embarrassed. And then I actually kind of start to laugh, like, how would this happen to anybody but me? And so I start kind of laughing, and then another person starts laughing. The professor starts laughing. Everybody in the class starts cracking up and laughing, and the professor just says, "Fine, we can't continue, class is canceled." Of course, everybody gave me the high five for class being canceled, so we got out like 45 minutes early, which was awesome. I was walking out the door. Meanwhile, still, my binder's a mess, and this nice girl comes up to me and taps me, and she goes, "It's okay. That could have happened to anybody." I'm like, "No, those kind of things only happen to me, but thanks a lot for being encouraging." And she's like, "It's okay. Do you want to study together?" So that actually started off with a friendship that lasted all through college and all through our adult life. And we share stories with each other about our children and our husband to this day. Those are the memories that you get at school.
A long time ago, when I was about 18, 19 years old, I had my first job as a lifeguard. And as I was traveling home, we were driving with a bunch of traffic, and all of a sudden, a car in front of me went off onto the side of the road. I didn't know what had happened, but there was dust everywhere, and I knew that it was some kind of emergency. So, having prepared in first aid and first responder protocol, I pulled over on the side of the road and went to this truck that had pulled off. And it ended up that this truck had completely flipped and it landed on its side. And by the time I had gotten out of my car, somebody had already stopped in front of me and pulled the driver out of the truck. So I am tending to the driver, and I'm talking to him, and he starts to lose consciousness. He goes into a seizure. And so I'm sitting with him, I'm talking with him, making sure that I can bring him back into consciousness once he comes to after his seizure. And so his seizure has stopped, and I run back to my car and I get a sleeping bag. And as I run back to my car to get a sleeping bag, I actually hit my ankle. I rolled my ankle, and adrenaline was pumping, so I didn't really feel it. And I ran back and I was helping this man. I covered him and I talked with him, and I ended up helping to prevent him from going into shock. And so EMS gets there, we do all of our paperwork, I do my witness statement, and then I drive home. And by the time I drive home, all my adrenaline has gone away, and I start to get out of my car to go home, and I tell my mom, I said, "I need to go to the doctor." So I ended up in the emergency room right next to the man that I helped in the car accident, and his mother came and talked to me and actually said that one of the EMS personnel, one of the drivers of the ambulance, said that I helped to prevent him from dying, because you can actually die from going into shock. So he walked into the emergency room I was in, and he shook my hand, and he actually ended up walking away from that accident and I ended up getting a cast on my foot because I had messed up my ankle. But it just goes to show that all of those skills that you learn can come in handy even outside of your career, and you can actually help save somebody's life.
Okay, so it was my first day of teaching ever, and I had spent like the whole week before like staying late in the classroom getting it all set up, and I had a class of 18 AP Bio students and then I also taught another biology class, but I was super excited to design this like really hands-on lab so the students could like come in right away and just start like doing science and get excited about living things. And so they had a lab involving betta fish, and they're at each one fish at each lab station. And betta fish are really cool because they kind of respond to stimuli pretty nicely. So I got it all set up the night before. I had the fish at the table and the lab was all ready to go. And I come in the next morning and all of my fish died. So they were like completely dead. And I was like, what do I do? So luckily I had a prep period before I had the AP Bio students coming in. So my first prep period on my first day of school, I ran to, was it Petco or that place over the pet store over there, and I had this like bag of dead fish, and I was like, I need more fish. And so I got some fish, and it like, it worked out, but it was just really crappy to have them all be dead when I was like misprepared. And I also just felt bad for the fish because clearly I had done something wrong and that's why they died. So anyway, that's my story.